Mic is hot. At 3, 2, 1. Hello, welcome to the Creative American Heritage Podcast. I am Han, and I am here with Flip. So, hey, Flip.
You like that, huh?
Yeah, I mean, for now. Oh, you know what? I should close my window.
Why?
It'll be too loud. There we go. It's all good.
You don't invite your neighbors to come over and listen to a live version of this?
Well, yeah, next time. We all tend to keep to ourselves, but yeah. I mean, we say hi to each other now and then, but anyway.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So how you doing, Flip, with the hunkering down and all?
I'm pissed.
Yeah?
I can't go surfing.
That's right.
And
They
those
closed all the
waves.
beaches. Yeah. They arrested a paddle boarder recently.
$1,000 fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, But other than that, I'm doing all right, making a couple of picture frames for my nephew for some.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
And actually building a coffee table.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So.
And when you are quite the carpenter.
Not really. My partner's better than I am. I do a lot of holding the stupid end of the tape and sweeping sawdust, and it's all right. It pays some of the bills anyways.
Right.
How about you? How are you getting along with all this stuff?
Busy week now that a lot of the professors are back at their home, and some of them, their labs are not as essential, so they're busy just writing up more science that they could think of to try to apply to grants and such. So I'm just here to help facilitate their budgets and what, as a research administrator.
Oh, you're lucky you're in that position right now.
I'm very fortunate and just grateful to just be able to serve that way and just do what I can to.
Well, plus you get the inside information. I mean, this is a horrible, horrible thing in history, but at least you're not on the outside.
Right. Oh. Yeah, I do get the constant email updates regards to what this virus is unfolding on the campuses and such. So.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about today, Flip?
I forgot. What are we talking about today?
Well, you mentioned
Dr. Kim Chang say. I was just kidding.
That's right. So should I bring up his picture?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's a very what's that? Oh. Did it come up?
No, you don't. I thought I had it.
Not me. I don't know how to do that kind of stuff.
Go. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, that's him. That's his yearbook picture from the what used to be the Southern Union Medical College in Seoul, which turned into Yonsei Medical School. And so he graduated. He started in 1910 and graduated in 1916.
Oh, wow.
And before that, he knew who Dosan was from the Sinminhoe. There was a lot of, Dosan was there till 1911. So when he started college in 1910, Dosan was quite an influence on a lot of the doctors that were there already at Severance. And they were involved in the independence movement. And so naturally, Dr. Kim got involved later on, but he did quite a lot, so it's interesting. But he actually was probably the first official to tackle public health. And he wrote a lot of really interesting, not policies, but maybe theories, or his political theories on building the nation based on the health of the individual.
So it's like public health papers, I guess, or.
Oh, I mean, he wrote those. He was a researcher. He was a scientist and a medical doctor as well. That's what his job was. He actually, I think he went to Johns Hopkins in 1925.
Oh, wow.
And he traveled the world giving lectures on public health.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, he was not just, he spoke English perfectly, but, he just, it's like the Dosan legacy, everybody that's kind of connected. And so his wife, they got married in 1920. And so this is when Dosan is in Shanghai for the provisional government, because he was attached to the provisional government as the physician and later in charge of the development of public health. And so he married Dosan's wife's sister. So.
Oh, okay. Oh,
so
it related by in-laws, I guess, or like.
Yeah, Dosan is his brother-in-law.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Okay, so recently I talked about Dosan as a disciplinarian to the story about Jimmy Kim.
Yeah.
Where, Jimmy Kim got, disciplined by Dosan in Shanghai. That's his dad.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, and so.
But Jimmy deserved it because he was.
Yeah, he was being a bad guy. Okay, but then the story was that my mom never thought Dosan disciplined anybody. He just didn't discipline the girls because Filson and Philip, I think, got physically disciplined a few times. Where he would never do that to the girls. I mean, it was just whatever. But she just had this ideal that he would never do that, and he was this peace-loving, fluffy and blah blah blah. I wish she was here to debate with me about whether he was the one that was calling the shots for the assassinations.
Right.
It'd be interesting. So anyways, so he's married to Dosan's wife's sister. He's Robbie Kim's family.
Oh, okay.
And he's Becky's family.
Oh.
Because Becky's grandfather is my grandmother's brother. And he's the one that was in Claremont with Mrs. Stewart in that picture. He's standing right behind. He's the guy on the motorcycle.
Right.
Yeah. So this is the family, and so Dosan was also knew that medicine was an important part of the health of the common citizen was important, and medicine was an important part of developing the Korean nation. And when he was at Kusei Hakdong in the 1895, he worked at Chejungwon, which is, they had a Korean drama about it's basically the first hospital in Korea. And
I watched a couple episodes of that drama.
yeah, so that I'm sure more people know it from that than they would from actual history. Which it was, I watched a couple episodes too, and it seemed like it was pretty decent, So he was a medicine boy there. So he, went around, and that was what they were learning, how important medicine was too, but how to be caring for other people, how to volunteer, and so after that, help, we went off into more political things, joined the Independence Club, and became more of an activist. But when he went back to, and my mom always said that he was conscious of his health, although his health wasn't very good because he'd been tortured. I think he had tuberculosis, he had cholera, because he traveled all over the world at that time, when, those bacteria and viruses were going on. And I think Dr. Kim was also an expert on malaria.
Okay.
And so part of his study for the World Health Organization was something to do in China. And hygiene was another thing. So there was probably some relationship between, mosquitoes bring bread in sewage in the streets, and what that was doing to health. It's, there's stuff that's written about him that he's written, so it's I just know him generally, his basic history as a member of the family and Dosan's legacy.
I see.
But if you were a medical student and went and looked more about what he did, you'd be very impressed. So the thing about Dosan also was when he went back to Korea for the Sinminhoe, he lived and worked at Severance Hospital, which at that time was across from the Seoul train station where it is today.
Mm-hmm.
And he was an orderly there. And also, before when he was went back, when they were in Riverside, my grandmother worked at Riverside General Hospital as a cook and a cleaning lady for the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So, the world of health care and, working in that industry was not foreign, so they understood the importance of hospitals and medicine and doctors and nurses. And so Dosan was an orderly, and in 1907, the Japanese, after the Protectorate Treaty in 1905, the Japanese demanded that the Korean army give up their weapons and, basically and so they had a battle in the streets.
Right.
And Dosan was a person who would go out into the battle and drag wounded soldiers back to the hospital. So, and the other, how we talk about women like Maria Kim and Cha Kyung-shin. Well, there was a group of these Red Cross nurses, because Kim Chung-se was in charge of the Red Cross Hospital in Shanghai in 1918.
Oh, okay.
So before Dosan got there, he was involved with Lee Kwang-soo and probably Cho Yo-han and those people that were already there. David Hyun's father, Hyun Soon. And so when they got there, the nurses were rigorously trained, but they were also, how we talked about the Independence Army and the war.
Yeah.
They were involved in that because they were the underground message carriers. So that's what Cha Kyung-shin and Maria Kim, Cha Kyung-shin's mom, and a big group of other women. So there's a picture where you'll see in Shanghai a group of Red Cross nurses.
Uh-huh.
Most of them double as couriers and also combatants in the war.
Oh, wow.
So they're part of the guerrilla movement as well. And, a lot of people don't understand that, because they don't put it in. There's nobody that's really has a comprehensive timeline that puts people together in what they did.
Right.
There's a picture of Dr. Kim and my grandmother's sister in a book, and it says that that's Dosan.
Okay.
I think it's Robert Kim's book, and but it was printed also in Korea in another book that was published by the Hungsedan. I argued with them, what do you know? You're an American, you're half Korean, it's like.
But they would admit to that mistake.
Finally, years. I mean, a lot of years later, because the first time I saw it in '73, I wasn't any different. I knew I had to shut up, but I was crying bullshit. Wait, this is wrong. So I mean, it's blatantly wrong. It was just like I argued with that guy from the Independence Hall about the address of the house my mom was born in. He says 1141. And I said, no, it's 1411. And he goes, no. And I'm just going like, okay, you idiot. Who do you think donated all the stuff that you're studying, you spaz? So I remember seeing him later. He goes, you don't like me, years later. And he goes, you don't like me, do you? And I said, fuck no, I don't like you. So.
All right, let me share a picture of Dosan for any. I mean, by now they should know who Dosan is, but.
Oh, well, there's a story, about that they've heard before, but the picture it's his famous picture, but there's a story to it too. So on the lapel is a Red Cross button.
Oh, this right here.
Yeah. So a lot of people thought that was the I also have a letter from.
It's like his most iconic picture, right? So
That's the official picture. That's from April 1919 when he decided he was going to become the lead of the provisional government. Because he was the first high-ranking appointed official to be there. Syngman was the president, but he didn't show up for. I don't think he showed up for like a year. He was too busy over here scamming people while everybody was gone.
I would, okay, I wouldn't say scam, but more.
Oh no, he was scamming people because he came up with those fake bonds, those
Those
unapproved
fake?
bonds.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he did. He had no permission, and he also appointed himself president because he was going to be the chairman.
Oh, you're talking about Sinminhoe.
Yeah, no, not
Oh.
Dosan.
I thought.
No, this is
Okay.
while Tosan's in China.
Okay, got it. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, no, Sinminhoe did scam. I thought you're okay. Sorry, I
no,
misheard.
that's all right. But so Tosan's also. I have in the file, John Cha found it, was a letter from the Red Cross telling these guys that they weren't officially in LA. The K&A building used to put up a Red Cross banner out in front of it, and the American Red Cross wrote a letter telling them they're not allowed to use it
Oh
unless
really?
they're. Yeah, it's hilarious, but I mean, it's for a good cause, but you know how Koreans are. Never, so of course Tosan had a little of that in him, but it's probably one of the only few things he ever did wrong, but I'm sure he figured straighten it out, but you know it wasn't for money. And so yeah, so one of the controversies, and my mom really I don't know, excited's not the word, but my mom really thought it was a big deal where she could tell people that was a Red Cross button.
Ah.
So I remember for every trip she would tell somebody that, oh no, this is Red Cross button. And it was funny because, we'd be in the Hungsadam building and some of these guys would try to explain the things that we donated to them.
Uh-huh.
So this guy's trying to explain to my mom about this picture. And and then she just looked at him and she goes, "Where do you think you got this from?"
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know.
That's funny. That's very funny. Wow.
So Dr. Kim had a specific training schedule for these nurses as well. I think they, trained for 20 hours a week while they were being nurses and being part of the war, part of the guerrillas. So the women's role, I mean, really got under
represented.
No, or just not recognized because of the male chauvinistic pig, approach of most Koreans.
Yeah, the Confucius
my mom got a lot.
patriarchy.
Yeah, my mom got a lot of that too. But and as we've said before, Dosan was for women's rights. So was Seo Jae-pil.
Right.
So and Queen Min was, a lot of people don't like her, but she was powerful. Dosan liked her. Dosan, went on after she died later on in the Independence Club, promoting her policy of not selling land to the Japanese.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. But when you get into the other part of what Dr. Kim wrote about, Dosan was the nation builder, and Dr. Kim was the individual builder based on health.
Oh, okay.
He thought that the way Koreans lived, which is true, just wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing too, at that time, if you have this warped sense of Los Angeles, when my mom lived in LA, in some places there was sewage that just ran right down the streets in downtown LA. So it wasn't, that's, I always say this lecturing, that yes, you are in 2020, but you have to really kind of put yourself in a time machine at one point to go back to what the environment was that these people were working in.
Yeah.
Because if, a lot of people just judge it, through technology instead of, taking themselves. It's almost like meditating, to really seek the truth about this time. You have to put yourself back then, like, um, and some of the old buildings downtown are, were there, so it's, um, but yeah, so that's an important part. So Dr. Kim wrote these theories about that, and because if you weren't healthy, you weren't thinking straight.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get to Dosan as the nation builder, as basically the architect of the nation and the guy that's trying to build national spirit, he's the one that's checking the lumber,
Right.
because he's the individual. So you build a house out of lumber, you know, and so he's the guy that's trying to figure out how to raise the best lumber physically. Well, Dosan is more education and spiritual, but Tosan's the whole movement leader pretty much, so Dr. Kim is also an unrecognized story, so this is posted on the Facebook, and I've got to post it on dosan.org. I've got to get back to that website because eventually I'm going to get off of Facebook. I just don't like it.
So did Dr. Kim did he also emphasize on diet?
Yeah, nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
That's like I was talking to somebody about, the homeless problem downtown. I go, and I was asking a mental health care person, asked too, and they kind of never really thought about it, is what the look that I got on their face. I mean, they could talk about it because it was, I said, I bet 25% of the problem with the homeless down in LA is malnutrition. Because if you're dehydrated,
Right.
you don't think straight.
Right.
If you have blood sugar problems, so what does a guy down there do if they're not eating right, that part of it, but they go to somewhere and get a big gulp after drinking liquor or shooting heroin, or however they got there is the depressive problem. But until you can have them hydrated, try to get their blood sugar squared away where they can think straight, because you can look at them all you want, you can put them in, but they're not going to understand anything you're saying. And that's, 20-25%. If you remove that part of it somehow and you could help those people and rehabilitate those people, I mean, that's a lot.
Right.
And it doesn't cost anything, just some food.
Right.
Some food and time, and so so there's, so that would be something like, because Dr. Kim traveled the world. I mean, all through Europe, they gave he was one who promoted soy milk.
Okay.
He wrote a paper on soy milk, and so he was really, uh ahead of his time. And somehow his whole thing started because he knew English and he was a translator for, God, I can't remember, the guy's name is Avery Russell, but he was the head of the Adventist church.
Okay.
So
That's how he first learned English, through the
or
church.
that's how he first got to go, to become somebody. He went to a Presbyterian school where he learned English. But when he got selected to be the translator for this guy, because, oh yeah, the reason, so they were really indebted to him, liked him, thought he was a great person. They're the ones that, this is the part of the I forgot, they're the ones that paid his tuition to go to Yonsei Medical School. So, but it was because of his ability to speak English and, however he presented himself. And so he's 1893. is when he was born, and in Pyongyang, Namdo. So if 1893, he's too young. Tosan's first speech in Pyongyang for the Independence Club was in 1898.
Mm-hmm.
And Tosan opened a school in 1900. He left in 1902. So Kim Chang-se would be 9. He may have heard of him, but if he came back, Tosan came back in 1907, and the Sinminhoe was becoming well known. But everybody knew who Tosan pretty much was,
Right.
By the time he left Korea, he was. So it's interesting. It's interesting how, and I've always tried to get a little help from them about information from that side of the family.
Mm-hmm.
The Kims, Jimmy Kim and Richard, and those people were pretty for, but the Lee side was really tight-lipped. There's a couple of the nieces, like my grandmother's niece is alive, but they just don't want to talk.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, they're almost dead. You talk to Becky, so can't you? No, they don't want to do it. I'm just gonna. It really pissed me off.
I see.
Anyways,
it's really unfortunate. I mean, because who knows what insight they could share in regards to those elders.
Yeah, their family and Tosan's history. But to shed more light on my grandmother's family, because my grandmother doesn't get recognized hardly near enough for what she did, by far. And it's too late now. There's very little stuff. And
well, I knew they referred her as Kun Mama.
Well, here, people
here,
respect her. I'm talking about people in Korea that were in charge of the history.
Yeah.
There's a few articles, but she never went back to Korea. She only went back once when Park Chung-hee invited her.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that he's a influential person that a lot of people don't know about. So, and the reason we're talking about this is because, we're in these really dire straits.
Yeah, unprecedented medical.
Yeah,
health
and so
impacting situations.
These guys all went through the Spanish flu.
Well, Korea went through several periods of plagues and things like. I mean, I know
bubonic plague, cholera,
in Korean
typhus.
Historical records, they would have.
Even now, they have outbreaks of hepatitis and
right,
malaria. And I don't think. I wonder about dengue fever. But during the summertime, because they always have so many mosquitoes. But they were lucky. I read an article. I don't know if you saw it, but there was a doctor who was thanking the church for having it because it forced Moon to do the testing. He had no choice. Once somebody found out what was going on, he it forced his hand, and they went right at it because they totally screwed up MERS. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, they did with what MERS happened in Korea to what Trump is doing here with the coronavirus. And it's I have the blood test information. I think it's coming 2 weeks ago. Trying to line up people from connections from people in America to this factory in China. And it was a serology test, it's a blood test. And so it's what they're all, they've got the RNA swab tests, which are good and more immediate, not immediate, but more definitive, I think, for the virus itself. But there's no antibody report from the, because of the serology test, it's a blood test. So what it does is recognizes if you had it before. And so what that's important to is to develop vaccine.
Right.
And so also this guy said that what they really need to know about the virus is the zero patient, the very first patient who got it and how he got it.
Yeah.
And the Chinese aren't coughing up that information.
Right.
You know,
Right.
but in Korea, they found out where the spreading was coming from Daegu. And one of the things they were talking about was the difference in considering what privacy meant. And so Koreans were more willing to give you the information about who they were with and where they were with, so the health people could track those people down and contain it.
Right.
Where here in America, you know, it's just like, you know, the leadership is so bad, you know, and they have all these, you know, warped senses of why Korea was successful, you know, but we're in deep shit. It's not good. You know, today I was looking at a report. 5,000 of, I don't know if it's the respirators or were the whatever rubber was on it was rotted.
Jeez.
Because they were, you know, they've been sitting.
And that would contaminate the whole
well, no, you just
area.
couldn't use. You could, yeah. I think that if they're respirators, you know, they're just, you know,
it won't, you know, so it won't work. Yeah.
No, and so you have Trump up there boasting about what this equipment and sharing it, and trying to explain why he's not sharing it, and the stuff he's sending out is just crap. Yeah, like I think the original CDC sending out millions of tests that didn't work. And then they're sending out tests now that have no swab with them. And there's a shortage of sterilized swabs. So I don't know why nobody is nailing this guy right there, just going, look, you said this isn't true. They try, but it's just, you know, it's bad enough that you have to go through the health threat. The lack of leadership is just sickening. You know, and why I was talking about Dosan and Kim Chang-se, I mean, those guys were leaders.
Right.
You know, those guys worked as a group, but, you know, if Kim Chang-se was in charge of public health, Dosan would let him do his job. You know, because he realized that that's how you work things, you know. And, you know, Dosan always promoted other people to be leaders. You know, he was training people to be leaders. It's not like this fat pig that we have for a president that, you know, is just unbelievable. You know, the amount of lies that just come out of there. It's you know, the Chinese are lying because they're not given information, but whatever they did, you know, that's there. You know, my beef is what happened here as a reaction to what he needed to do to protect Americans in America from being attacked by this virus. That's where his leadership fails, because no matter where something comes from, how it's given to you, that's the hand you're dealt with. And as the president of the United States, with all your capability, which he has very little, you know, which is becoming evident, you're supposed to protect the American people and do the right thing. You know, it's sad. You know, it's really sad. So anyways, so I guess we could post something on Korean American Heritage, the
blog,
the link to the article, and it's what is it, NHIB or it's you know, it's the website that this article is.
Yeah,
I'd forget it's a real credible website. This you know, wasn't just written by you know, some hacker, you know, high school student. You know? Right. But the other thing that happens too is that paper that we got about Yonsei in the South.
Yeah.
So this guy named Chris, I forget where he's. I think he wrote the paper in 2017. It's a great paper. It's informative. I learned a lot from it. And he's talking about Yonsei, who is almost inseparable from talking about Dosan, and especially because they've had this controversy about the Eguka, the national anthem. This guy never mentions Dosan's name once.
Yeah, that's
and I'm not saying that because he's my grandfather. I'm saying that as the historical figure who's associated with 50% of what's going on in that paper. But it's still a good paper, and you could write it, but that's the thing, that these scholars and other people here don't realize how much more of a more complete picture they have when they add Dosan to it, where he belongs. And the other problem is you've got people like Ed Chang as the expert on Korean American history. You have people like Ham Young-gi, Mike Han as the executive of the Dosan Memorial Foundation, and they're complete idiots. And they're opportunists. So nobody's learning.
Well,
I wish
they're stuck at home right now. They can't. They're stuck at home right now. They can't congregate.
Thank God for that. That's why I kind of, I was talking to John Cha today about starting a lecture type thing, and then also a course. It would be like Dosan 101, Susan on Cutting 101, Philip on 101, and Pioneer Generation 101. And then anybody else can go do whatever they want. And then actually because the other day I was on this Zoom thing with 9 people,
right?
And you said you could do 100 or
yeah
so I wouldn't mind giving a lecture, but and it'll be better for people that can watch from their home now that everybody's stuck there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Did you get the Zoom update today?
Yeah, I got an email about it.
Yeah, I updated, but I wonder if it had something to do with the Zoom bombing.
Well, there's a lot of security issues involved with Zoom. It's not as secure as it could be.
Yeah, they're forcing them to fix it.
Yeah,
that's what. Yeah, but yeah, it's pretty suspect. But it works better than Skype, I think.
Yeah.
There's no delay. I don't think. Is there a delay?
Depending on your
speed of your computer,
speed of your internet, I think. Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So we can post a link to that article on the Korean American Heritage.
Will do.
Okay. I'll put one up on dosan.org.
Okay. Should we end it here?
Sure.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining.
Stay safe. Stay away from
American
everybody.
Heritage podcast, and come back for more Korean American history. So
wash your hands.
Yes.
Wash your hands.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.